Hello, guys. Welcome back to Andrea's podcast. Today I have a very special guest, Dr. Kori Propst. Hi, Kori. How are you?
Andrea, I'm awesome. Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you.
I
Thank you for
know
asking me.
this is gonna be an awesome podcast and conversation. So, Kori,
Mhm.
I know I could introduce you like in so many different ways, but I will ask you to just introduce yourself to our listeners so they can know a little bit more about you and
Sure.
what do you do. Here I
Thank
am.
you.
Thank
I am the Diet Doc Wellness Director, which doesn't really give you any idea about what I do. But I'm a health psychologist, and what I focus on primarily is mindset and eating psychology coaching. And more specifically, I help my clients really free themselves from binge eating. And we work together so they can discover a more peaceful and trusting relationship with food and their bodies.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have known each other since like I was just counting like it was 2000 beginning of 2013. That's when I started working with Michelle, and
Yeah.
then right after I hired you, and then we worked together for a little while. But
Uh-huh.
we know each other for a while, and you helped me so much,
Hmm.
especially with your like so I how can I even explain this? But with your questions, like your open ending questions that made me just really thinking about what I was going through at
Hmm.
that time, and
Thank you
that's
for
what I
sharing that, Andrea. Yeah. Um, I really feel that curiosity
mm,
is the foundation to understanding ourselves and understanding who we are and how we are and why we do the things that we do.
mm-hmm,
And oftentimes, I'll speak for myself, but I'm going to make a big assumption in that you experience this too in your coaching. Our clients come to us and they may be asking themselves questions, but they're not invitational
mm,
questions. And what I mean by that is they don't invite inquiry, and they don't invite openness, and they don't invite reflection. They're very much berating questions like, what the hell is wrong with you?
mm-hmm,
That's not a question that we're going to try to answer.
mm-hmm,
It's more like a statement of our lack of worth.
mm-hmm,
Uh, and so questions they're really important for me in terms of the way that I work with my clients, but they're really important for me
mm-hmm.
personally. And it's just the way that I operate in my life, is to ask curiously compassionate questions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's beautiful. And so I just want to kind of circle back a little bit on the work you do at the DIDOC and especially
Yeah.
with your clients. So with, emotional eating and binge eating, I'm someone who is eating. I was recovered, or
Mhm.
I'm not a recovered because you're always recovering. So actually, I'm a eating disorder recovering person. So, and then I know how emotions plays a huge role in our food decisions.
Mhm.
So I would like for you to kind of just explain to us, to our listeners, how can we how our emotions are so entitled to the way we behave or the way we make our food choices. And
Yeah.
if it, I don't know if the question makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. So I'll start here, Andrea. I think that it's important for all of us to recognize that as human beings,
Mm-hmm.
we are emotional creatures,
Mm-hmm.
that emotions are valid,
Mm-hmm.
they're normal, they are expectable,
Mm-hmm.
and that we'll have them.
Mm-hmm.
And that without them, we wouldn't be who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
many of our decisions in our lives are based upon how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we often hear that we shouldn't make emotional decisions,
Mm-hmm.
but emotions guide the majority of our decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's very different than emotional eating. And I think we can get into how I define emotional eating and
Mm-hmm.
how
Yes, please.
I don't believe that emotional eating in many regards is a quote unquote bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but emotions are energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I view them is their energy in motion.
Mm.
And they operate in our bodies, typically below the neck. So it's like, how do we even know we're experiencing an emotion? Well, we feel
Yeah.
a shift, right? We
Mm.
feel a shift in our stomachs or in our
Mm-hmm.
chests. Our chests get tight, our butterflies in the stomach, we hear that a
Mm-hmm.
lot, or our shoulders are up around our ears and we feel tension, we feel heat or
Mm.
cold
Mm-hmm.
or hair up along rising up along the backs of our necks. Like,
Mm-hmm.
those are all signs of or symptoms, internal or external manifestations of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And they guide us in a lot of ways because they are information.
Yeah.
Emotions are information that something is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Something is important right now. Something needs to be paid attention to right
Mm-hmm.
now. And for a lot of people, emotions are very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, they don't know what emotions they're experiencing. They have a limited vocabulary about their emotions. It's hard for them to articulate what they're feeling or
Mm-hmm.
define what emotion is
Mm.
there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that can make it very difficult because we gravitate towards certainty, right? It's
Yeah.
like we want to feel stable all the time and we want to
Mm-hmm.
feel grounded all the time and we want to feel like things are very like black and white all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of us, emotions, they make us feel like we're off kilter or that
Yeah.
something isn't quote unquote right.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the work around this is in helping individuals begin to learn how to accept and be compassionate towards and develop a different relationship with emotion in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't tell you how many times, Andrea, that I have heard my clients, they come back to me after working together and they'll say to me, the most profound thing you ever said to me was that I could feel my feelings.
Mm.
And you've probably had this experience too. I'm just like, that's the most profound thing I said to
Mm-hmm.
you. But when you come from, so many of us come from backgrounds where it wasn't okay. It was not okay. And in fact, it was bad and wrong to
Yeah.
feel our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And not only to feel them, because when we allow ourselves to feel them, our bodies change. We
Mm.
may cry, we may laugh, and that laughter may happen in quote unquote inappropriate situations. Like, I know
Mm-hmm.
people have laughed in a funeral before, and we
Mm-hmm.
could judge those people, or we could just recognize that they're processing an emotion in a way that just some people don't,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so if we've come from backgrounds like that and our childhoods like that, where emotion just, it was off limits,
Mm-hmm.
then you grow up and you're in eating situations or food situations. We'll bring this full circle now and
Mm-hmm.
to food, like you asked. And if we don't have the skills to process whatever emotion we're experiencing in the moment, and we're trying to find solid ground, moving towards food it's really protective.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's stabilizing, it's
Mm-hmm.
grounding. So that's why in many ways, like initially when I'm working with individuals who are struggling with emotional eating, it's
Mm-hmm.
very much a process of helping them to understand how that behavior has been beneficial for them in many ways and protective for them in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's what they know to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And until they begin to develop new skills and abilities,
Mm-hmm.
then that's been there for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That makes
Yeah,
sense?
it does. It's just like a little security blanket.
It is.
And then
Yeah.
another thing that I was thinking about too, when what you were saying, is that I love the fact that you help your clients to recognize how beneficial was having this behavior and how much help to them to get it through those difficult times,
Mm-hmm.
and honoring that, and sort of like learned how to neutralize those behaviors, and it just not a giving meaning to the behavior itself, right? It's like, this is
Yes.
not a bad action that I'm doing right now. It's just like
Yes.
it's just part of what I know. But
Yeah.
now I'm open to experiment and open to learn new skills that is gonna help
Mm-hmm.
me, that's gonna serve me better than with
Mm-hmm.
this behavior that I always knew for my entire life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about like years and years and years of,
Decades
yeah, doing the
of
same thing.
shame,
Yeah.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Starting very early when we were told, like, stop crying.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I recall an incident when I was younger where I lost my blankie at a little blankie.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of kids have little blankies that they carry around. I was very attached to my blankie,
I think we all
and
are.
I was living with my grandparents at the time, and my blanket disappeared. And I ran into the living room, bawling my eyes out, and my grandpa was like, stop your crying, I'll give you something to cry about. And I remember him saying, like, you're such a good actress,
Mm.
and the message was like, you're faking,
Mm.
this isn't okay, this isn't a valid thing for you to be this emotional about.
Mm-hmm.
And so we learn in so many different ways that we need to shut that down and
Mm-hmm.
not express ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the sensitivities that we feel are there's what they turn into is a sense of shame,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm bad and I'm wrong
Mm-hmm.
for feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, when we have just years and years of shame built up and we've criticized ourselves for years and years about
Mm-hmm.
this particular behavior,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's like a dog pile of gross, messy stuff that we have to like decondition ourselves around, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about shame is that we think in many ways by constantly criticizing ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and telling ourselves that, you know, we're stupid for doing this, or, you know, asking those very non-invitational questions like, what is wrong with you that you can't
Mm-hmm.
figure this out? Why do you keep doing this?
Mm.
It's completely demotivating.
Yeah,
And
it
yet
is.
we believe that that's going to help us change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's backwards. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And what we really need is self-compassion in those
Mm-hmm.
moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I so agree with you. Thank you for sharing this, because as you talk about this, I was just kind of like I have this flashbacks in my mind, just like, those. I would say that I adopt other people's voices and thoughts, and then I apply that to myself,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way I only knew. So, and it's interesting that you were saying about like how hard we are with ourselves, saying like, I can't believe you have done this again.
Yeah.
You know, you were stupid doing this again. It's like, but it's interesting because that is the same. That's what we learn from our teachers, maybe in school, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
from our parents, or maybe from somebody else. That it's like they want you to succeed, but in the end, they, instead of like asking open questions or inviting you to see where you made the mistake or the boo boo, they just like, I can't believe it, you have done this again. It's like, don't you know that this is the third time you have done the same mistake, or fourth time? When are you gonna change? And
And how,
then,
as a child, do you even respond to that? It's like I like to use the example of a child like spilling their milk.
mm-hmm,
And the parents like, why did you do that?
mm-hmm,
Like, what is the kid supposed to say? There's nothing to answer that with, because I'm dumb, because I'm
mm-hmm,
stupid.
yeah,
It's just a horrible question.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's
it
like,
is.
okay, the milk is spilled. Oh, sweetheart, should we clean this up together?
Mm,
How can we make sure that next time this doesn't happen?
mm-hmm, yeah. It's relearning
Mm-hmm.
how to talk with yourself in this
Yeah,
case,
for
right?
sure.
So,
It's
um,
unlearning the voices of the past.
mhm. And the reframing
Uh-huh.
those, like reframing the phrase to that empowers you.
Yeah.
So take us through the process of working with someone. I can even use myself as an example.
Okay.
Um, you know, back back in the days when I was struggling a lot with my eating disorder. It's not a mine. I don't like to say even mine because it's
The.
not mine.
Yeah.
It is the. Um, and I remember that I would struggle I would control the food and the
Mm.
emotions all day long, and at night was like oh my God, it's evening, so now I'm free. I can do what I want to do, which is like binge eat, and like in my case, because I was bulimic, so the purging and all that stuff. But and then right after, like, everything was done, I would like just like beat myself and say to myself like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you've done this again. It's like, are you, when are you going to stop?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was grabbing like physically, not physically, but like on my mind, I was envisioning like, grabbing my neck and just like shaking myself like so hard.
Wake up.
Yeah, I was like being so mad, and it's like,
Mhm.
and then waking up again and then start all over again. It's like, okay, tomorrow's a new day. I'm gonna just restrict again. It's just gonna,
Yeah.
like I'm done with this, and then would happen again and again and again. So
Mhm.
with someone like my old self,
Hmm.
how would you just like, I know we started working together. We have been working together, let's say, for a little while, and then, you know, because if it's in the very, very beginning of everything, and then it would be a little, you need to know me a little bit more.
I do need to know you a lot.
I know before you're like, okay, let's just, but to
Here's
someone
what
who,
you're gonna do, Andrea. No, I definitely don't work like that.
no, I know you don't. I know you well. So, but it's just like to start bringing that awareness and recognizing that, this is not the worst thing that you have done, or this is not a bad thing you are doing. How would you like help that person to start walking towards to reframe,
Mhm.
to become more compassionate towards themselves when they are making those mistakes that they know that it's not good for them, but it's kind of at that point you are hopeless. You're in the bottom of that like hole where
Mhm.
you don't see the light. So
Mhm.
it's hard. It's very hard when you are there. So you
Sitting in
know
the
that.
shame, sitting in
Mm-hmm.
that shame is it just feels annihilating,
Mm-hmm.
and like you're in a deep, deep well that you're never going to be able to crawl out of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you mentioned like self-compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's first. I think there's always some education to be done
Mm-hmm.
and some understanding of each person's idea of and conceptualization of what different terms mean,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like self-compassion. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I know grown adults who are like, that's too soft, that's too
Mm-hmm.
gentle, it's
Mm-hmm.
too gooey, ooey gooey. And I'm like, well, okay, we don't have to call it that. Let's call it friendliness towards ourselves. How does that
Mm-hmm.
land for you? Because what's interesting is we have so many meanings attached to different words and so many images and experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a lot of the work is decoupling and
Mm-hmm.
unweaving the ideas and perceptions that we have just around words themselves, like compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that the idea of self-compassion and what it actually means and what it involves can feel really complex and murky. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? How do I even practice that?
Mm-hmm.
Those are really great questions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is that? Well, so I mean, we don't have to go into the three components of self-compassion, but working through with you what each one of those components is, like kindness. How would
Mm-hmm.
that, what would you actually say to yourself if you were being kind to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll practice statements.
Mm-hmm.
um, I, I I don't think we ever did this, Andrea, but with my clients I like to do what's called an empty chair exercise. So they'll sit in one chair and the eating disorder might be in the other, or the shame might be in the other, or their body might be in the other, or the
Mm-hmm.
food might be in the other, and we'll have a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the conversations that we have are in our heads,
Mm-hmm.
and they just get really just
Yeah,
it's
it
all
does.
messed up and
Mm-hmm.
all jumbled, and there's really a lack of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can separate,
Mm.
create some separation and create some distance, not only can we feel like, okay, the eating disorder isn't me, the shame isn't me,
Mm-hmm.
the, you know, to
Yeah.
have that distance
Mm-hmm.
and then have the conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like a different way of journaling.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it gives you the ability to practice the statements of self-compassion and what you hear yourself being kind, and when you hear it and the statements come out of your mouth, you can feel what's in your body too.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a very somatic process.
Mm-hmm.
It's an intellectual process as
Mm-hmm.
well, and those two come together, and that can be very powerful.
Yeah.
You know, the other two components of self-compassion, I'll just say them because I mentioned that one of them was kindness, is mindfulness. And so we want to understand what that means, and that's a non-judgmental awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, Andrea, you're just in that shame spiral.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with you? Why are you doing this again? You said you would stop. Like, is that ever going to happen? And that those are all very judgmental statements, because they convey that you're bad, that you're wrong, that you're worthless, that you'll never figure it out. And so practicing non-judgmental statements, what would that sound like? And then the other piece of it is common humanity, because in that space, it very much feels like you are the only one suffering, that no one would ever freaking understand what this is like. And it's very isolating.
Yes.
Right? I just, most of the people that I start working with, and I would imagine this is the same for you, is they've never told anyone. There may be one person that they've mentioned it to. Sometimes their significant others are not even aware. They wouldn't dare to tell them what's happening in that part of their lives. And so helping them to really understand that this is not something that they need to struggle with on their own, and that in fact many, many, many people are struggling with it, can feel relieving. And when they can begin to feel a sense of relief and a little bit more ease, and they can let go of the tight reins, then that puts us in a position to be able to explore more. Explore the cycle, because like you mentioned, you restrict all day. And then you end up binging at night. And then because you binged, you need to restrict again all day. And then you end up binging. And so when we can explore that cycle, and we can increase the compassion and feel maybe a little bit more ease around the situation, when I bring up when we get into a discussion about how it is the restriction that's causing the binging in the first place, it can land a little bit more easily, because oftentimes it's not, you need to stop restricting. Usually what I'm asking my clients to do is, I am collaboratively asking them if they would be willing to try not, like, I'm sorry, here's what I meant to say. It's typically, Andrea, not you need to stop binging. It's we need to stop restricting after you binge. Does that make sense?
It does completely make sense.
Sorry, got
No.
jumbled up in my head.
No, I completely understand.
Yeah, because that's what's perpetuating the cycle.
Yeah. And what I got from this, and I'm sure like the listeners, because we always struggle with our own things. And
Yeah.
this, we're talking about food, but this doesn't mean that it's just food related. It can be
Mm-hmm.
any area of your life, right? So it could be
Mm-hmm.
finances, could be relationships.
Yeah.
So what I again, what I got from, it's like we need to, not a need, but it's like it's just a form, again, to neutralize the action and not putting so many meaning to what you have done by restricting,
Mm-hmm.
but sit with being in that discomfort of like in with the thoughts, and you actually having that conversation with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If it has to be this exercise with a chair, which I loved. I actually done this type of exercise, but with my inner child,
Yeah.
in the past. So that's was one of the things that really helped me to heal my relationship with my parents and relationship with my
Mm-hmm.
past. So it's just having that dialogue. And then what I'm thinking about in my own personal experience, having the dialogue, is that you take away yourself away from the picture. Actually, it's so interesting because
Yeah.
it feels like you were just like a third person,
Uh-huh. Yes.
and then you have you physically, you on a chair, and then you
Yeah.
have
At this point
you
in
like this.
time in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have here like this third person, and then you have
The
your inner,
observer.
yeah, the observer. Yes, it's right. Thank you for reframing that. And then you
Yeah.
have the child or the food or whatever it is in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just becomes so much more easier to just kind of start talking with that person,
Mm-hmm.
because again, now you're just having a conversation.
Right.
It's just like I am having a conversation with you right now. Like that's how I would. Yeah, it sounds awkward.
It does
Yes,
sound
it does.
awkward. It sounds weird to a lot
It's
of
like
people when I
they're like,
explain it. I'll tell you, Andrea, I recorded a podcast with Joe
yeah.
on the Life Mastery podcast,
Oh my
and
God.
Steve, he edits all of the podcasts,
Uh-huh.
and I had said something about identities and how we have multiple
Mm,
identities.
mm-hmm,
And this is what you're explaining. It's like we have an inner child inside of us. We
mm-hmm,
still have that adolescent inside of us.
mm-hmm.
And he was so literal. Steve emailed, he's like, what are you talking about? That we have all of these people inside of us. Like,
Oh
it
my God.
was such a funny conversation.
But
Um,
yeah, it is. It is. It's so interesting because it's kind of, it's still in the realm of our conversation, but I just want to
sure.
share this, is that sometimes I do this as exercise where I have a table where n- each chair is one part of me. Is the wife there? She's sitting there. Is the child? She's sitting in there. And then is the coach? She's sitting in there. So it's all this, identities that I have in myself. They are sitting there. And then when I have to make a decision, I ask each person what they would do, when it's like a very difficult decision or something very important.
Mhm.
Um, and it's so interesting because each one, they have their own strength.
Yeah.
And then they can, like, they are giving their own personal opinion. And then I can make my own decision, you know?
They each have their own strengths and they each have their own vulnerabilities and
Mm-hmm.
fears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you have to talk with them because you're going to be okay regardless. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you might feel that you're going to make a mistake or you're going to fail or whatever, but you're going to be okay. So you have to have that, definitely have to have the conversation with them, because to assure that no matter what, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's so,
They're each in a different developmental stage too.
mm-hmm. Yeah. It
And
is.
so if you kept them all inside and you're hearing all of these different conflicting voices and needs and desires and fears, it's like, this is where people get so like, I don't know, I can't make this decision.
Yeah.
Well, you have a lot of different voices going on inside right now, because you have the scared 5-year-old and you have the rebel adolescent who doesn't want to freaking be told what to do. And yeah, and then you have, you have the adult who wants to be incredibly responsible and maybe in our cases has very perfectionistic tendencies and needs to get it exactly right. Right? And so all of them are giving us different information, and the exercise that you take yourself through, like you're having a roundtable discussion.
Yeah.
Here, say what you need. What's important to you about this? Like, yeah, get it outside of yourself.
Yes,
So that
that's
you
yeah.
can look at it with more clarity. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it sounds like a little weird. I never shared this with nobody.
Well, it's actually,
like,
it's family systems theory. I mean, this is a branch of therapy, a branch of psychology. Like, we actually have a family system inside of us, a family of people. Yeah. Surprise, guys.
Yay, hello.
You're not crazy if you have multiple identities.
No, and you know what is interesting to me is that when you actually make this as like fun and interesting,
Yeah.
it's just becomes so much easier to actually experience or experiment with this, because again, it's just it's fun. I love the word fun, because when you say fun, oh, this is so much fun, even though it might not be fun, it's just like,
well, when it's like, fun, what happens? We've let go of so many expectations. When it's fun, we're going with the flow. We're not trying to control things.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the foundation of the work is really in, if we're in the moment, we're in the well, we're feeling like we're trying to claw our way out, we're digging through. In those moments, we can migrate from trying to change it. Like, I need to get out of this right now. This is so uncomfortable. You said, like, learning to sit in the discomfort. It's like, I don't want to learn how to sit in the discomfort. That's like, then we need to rephrase it. We move from changing to processing. This isn't to be changed. It's just to process it.
Yeah.
To understand it.
Yeah.
What is this? This is interesting. And that's done with compassionate curiosity, with a gentleness, with a kindness, with a tenderness. And that can feel strange because oftentimes we didn't get that. We don't have any practice with it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would like to ask you is that I was just thinking right now, just passed through my mind, like the people who come to you, do you think that most people need to come to us when they are ready for that change? To accept that things are not gonna be always roses? It makes sense to my question. It's like, like some people, they even though they are right now, they're living their worst.
Yeah.
Like I it's like just like getting back again to the old self, my old self. Like I was just living in a nightmare.
Yep.
But I was so scared to let that go because I didn't know what it would be on the other side. Even though I saw other people's testimonials that they
You
they
can
recover.
recover.
Yeah,
You can heal.
yeah. And but that was so foreigner and so like not possible to me. And but some people, even though they are in that pain, they're I don't think they're willing.
I think here's what popped up for me, Andrea.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of people think and or believe that if they're going to work with us, they need to be sure about something.
Mm.
That I want to recover, I want to heal, I want to change this.
Mm.
And I don't agree that
Mm-hmm.
that's necessary.
Mm.
I think that the other thing that they could feel is I need someone to process this with. I'm
Mm.
ambivalent. I still want my eating disorder,
Yeah.
and I don't want my eating disorder, and I
Yeah.
want it and I don't,
Yes.
and it's hurting me and I'm scared to let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're straddling the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And here again, that's not to judge.
Mm.
It's to be compassionately curious about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're here.
Yeah.
Like I have clients who right now they're straddling the fence between wanting to diet and wanting
Mm.
to lose weight and change their bodies and get to a certain size and
Mm-hmm.
shape,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to practice intuitive eating
Mm.
and body sovereignty and body
Mm.
trust. And they've got one leg on this side of the fence and
Yes.
one leg on this side of the fence. And
Yeah.
I just had a woman ask me, like, is it okay that I still want to lose weight?
Mm.
And it very much is a case of, you know what, all of it belongs. That isn't something we have to push away.
Mm.
All of that belongs. Let's explore it.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the thought come from?
Yeah.
When you feel compelled
Mm-hmm.
to hop on the next diet,
Mm-hmm.
when the other part of you is like, no, that's wrong. Like, trust your body,
Mm.
reconnect with your body. Like, where does the thought come from?
Yeah.
Because the thing I think we forget is we don't live in a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
We're very much influenced by the environment and by other people. And we live in a culture
Mm-hmm.
that is constantly telling us that we need to change. We
Yeah.
need to change our bodies and we need to look different and we need to be a
Mm-hmm.
certain size and shape and weight. And so, is it okay that you're having the thoughts that you still want to lose weight? Well,
Yeah.
all thoughts are valid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even if you haven't binged in 2 years, you've
Mm-hmm.
recovered, you're quote unquote recovered and in recovery, you've
Mm-hmm.
healed. Like, you may still have thoughts about binging.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's be curious about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, it's so much to it feels like it's more like I'm not coming to you for you to fix me,
Right.
but I'm coming to you because I need your help to help me to process
Yeah.
this entire way, this feelings that I'm
Mm-hmm.
having, this
Mm-hmm.
thoughts that I'm having.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just
Well,
appreciate that.
yeah. And I think that the eating disorder promises fixing.
Mm-hmm.
The diet
Mm-hmm.
promises fixing.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things promise very black and white and getting to a destination
Mm-hmm.
because they're very much about control.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so our clients who come to us and who are helping with that process of processing
Mm-hmm.
It and the way of life that they're learning how to live is it's opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's not about control. It's
Mm-hmm.
about freedom
Yeah.
and peace
Mm-hmm.
and ease.
Mm-hmm.
And no, that doesn't mean feeling comfortable all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's the promise of the diet and the eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
They promise you'll be comfortable if you do this.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing will hurt you. You'll be bulletproof.
Yeah.
But that's not life.
No. And then when you are exposed to life,
Yeah.
and then you don't know what to do. And when you don't know what to do, you get desperate and then you hide yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, it's so interesting. I love humans.
Me
Just
too.
saying. That's like, I just love it. I just love to understand and to just kind of dig in and not a, dig into in a way where I want to 100% understand what's going on because we're not
We can't.
gods, you know, we
Yeah.
can't. But it's just to like, to open doors to allow those people or even ourselves to explore new things, new ways of being ourselves without feeling shame or without feeling, you know, you without pretending to be
Yeah.
like a super whatever, you know, like
No, we're not promising anything when people come to us.
no. Uh-uh.
This is
Oh,
going to be you're going to experience discomfort because we're going to sit together in a safe space and, like you said, discover and explore things that maybe you haven't considered.
yeah, before, yeah. And what I like to tell my clients is that, you know, like I just ask you to be open and to try this new thing that I'm inviting you to try. Because the worst case scenario, all like you can always go back to the way you always been. It's there.
Yeah.
It's not gonna leave. It's always there. But I'm, you know, giving you this opportunity. And to me, like even when I tell myself this, I'm giving you this opportunity. Be open to try and to practice this for a little while. Because if it doesn't work for you, if you feel like this is a waste of your freaking time, just go back to your freaking older way of doing things, and it's gonna be there. That's simple. But it's the funniest thing is that when you allow yourself to try a different thing, a
Yeah.
different way of doing that thing, you are like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm not gonna go back to that old thing because this is so much better.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know, like this is so
Yeah.
much better. Oh
Well,
my.
the thing I think that we get into is we adopt these certain behaviors because we so much want control.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is they're controlling us.
Yes.
So when
Mm-hmm.
we learn these different ways of behaving, different ways of thinking, and different ways of being, while the ground may feel a little shakier at times, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the driving.
Yeah.
I've reclaimed my agency
Mm-hmm.
that the disordered eating took from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just awesome. Just beautiful. So we're about to wrap up. I wish I could stay with you forever. It's like
Hey, we could talk
it's
all
like
day.
yeah, you have to come back. You definitely have to come back because I know like your work it's much more than just this, especially working with like competitors and fitness professionals.
Yeah.
I think it's so needed in this industry. But before we wrap up, I always like to finish my podcast with fire questions.
Ooh, lightning round. Oh, great. Okay. Okay, open up, Kori. Don't get
All
all
right,
constricted
no,
here.
no. We start nice and easy, and then we can get a little bit
Like
deeper.
free association. Okay. I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to mind.
Yes, that's what it
That
is
could be
about.
dangerous.
whatever it is,
Okay.
like this is not for kids anyways. So, so what are you grateful for in your life right now?
My cat.
Aw,
Can I comment on that?
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start crying.
Aw.
This is something I've shared with my clients of late, Andrea, because I have two cats.
Mm.
One in particular, his name is Ren, full name Ronaldo. Renners, Roosers, I call him Kitten Man. Like, he's just, like, he literally is the love of my life.
Mm.
And he will look up at me with these big, innocent,
Aw.
Mom, I love you. I love you so much. I love you unconditionally. I love you
Aw.
unapologetically. I just love you. And this is what happens for me when I see that. I start crying. And then the next thing I think, Andrea, is, fuck, you are showing me how I need to be looking at myself.
Mm.
I am, that's what I'm most grateful for right now. He is
Aw.
literally like looking, I feel like he's looking into my soul and saying, look at yourself this way, Mom.
Aw.
And I don't have children.
Yeah.
I've brought this to the table for my clients who have children, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah. Like, the way that my kids look at me,
Mm.
that's a lesson for me about how I can begin to love myself.
Mm.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you for sharing this.
You're
Just
welcome.
made me think about my dog. We have three dogs, but
Uh-huh.
Achilles, even Brian tells me that Achilles is the puppy one. He's only a
Yeah.
year old. He's the mom's dog. So he always with me, no matter
Yeah.
where I go. He sits on my lap. He's just put his face like
Right?
me and just look at me. He's like,
Yeah.
and I never thought about this. Thanks for sharing because
Oh
now
my
I was
god.
like, oh my God, that's why you were so like he's like he follows me everywhere.
See,
He
that's Ren. Yeah. He'll softly nip my leg. He's running, he follows me everywhere. When I sit down, he is in my lap. He's just like,
oh,
Mom, you're perfect.
yeah,
That's literally what he's saying to me. You're perfect. I love you.
yeah. It's not a beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people and pets when animals comes to our lives to teach us lessons.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's awesome.
Teaching me so much.
And what one or two books that you that have made it a huge difference in your life?
Ooh,
I
that's a,
I know it's a lot of books,
I
but
have, yeah. Um, Body Respect, Health at Every Size,
mm,
Intuitive Eating, Mindset, Brainstorm, the upside of our dark sides. Okay, I'll stop. I could keep going,
I
but
know. Thank you.
yeah.
And
Oh, and Eating in the Light of the Moon.
I
That one
never
is a
heard.
very, very important one for those who are working through disordered eating too.
Mm. And you have 30 seconds. You're
Oh,
in the elevator. You have 30 seconds to say something to a person that's gonna change their life. A message that you wanna say to someone that can change their lives. I know that's a tough one.
when does the 30 seconds start?
Oh, you can start right
Oh,
now.
here's what I want. I don't want to say anything. I want to ask them a question.
No, even better. What is the question?
What are you not sharing? What are you pretending?
Ooh, now it's making me thinking. I'm pretending to be someone that I'm not because I'm scared.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I'm scared that people will not like me. They will judge me. Then at the same time, as I reply to your question, my intellectual side or my like my wise side,
Your wise mind, yeah.
she comes to me, or my kindness, she comes
Yeah.
to me, and you are perfect just the way you are.
Hmm.
You know, just slowly, if you feel uncomfortable, we slowly start sharing
Mm-hmm.
your struggles. You start sharing your insecurities, and this way you can actually help other people as well to
Mm.
just to be who they are. That perfection doesn't exist. You know, like we created this
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism in our minds,
Yeah.
and then you strive and you chase that our entire life, and then look at your pet or look at your husband
Uh-huh.
that's cheating you. I'm saying like this, and you guys are not seeing, but I was like just pointing out that is cheating you. That life is to be lived,
Hmm.
and it's that's the most important thing. That's what we are here for. I want to cry right now. I was like,
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your vulnerability. Yeah.
it's just what it came in my mind, and it came like I think I think it is important for us who have this platform to share our own struggles,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree
and
with you.
it's just like to me, this is doing a podcast. When I first started, like in the back and this is just being vulnerable here with you guys, is that I want to be a podcaster. I want to be that person. I want to be like known for whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
now that's how I see this. And it came from, I would say, like from a wrong, not a wrong, but the intention was different. The intention wasn't like it's it was a selfish intention. Make
Mm-hmm.
sense? Because I want to be someone, because I want to be someone. I want people to like me.
But it came from moving towards like status and image.
Yes. Then, as I go through my own evolution, and it's been okay, what, like 15 months now with this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and this platform, what I see now is this platform was given to me as a gift.
Mm-hmm.
So I can not only share my own struggles, but my guests' knowledge and where they are coming from, their own experiences. So, and that's why it's like, if I can, of course, I'm not going to be 100% raw here because it's scary still. I don't think I will get into that point where I can be 100% raw.
Well, some things it's we want to keep to ourselves. They're
Yeah.
private to us. We're still
Mm-hmm.
processing them. We're still
Mm-hmm.
working through them. We
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't maybe necessarily even know how to explain them yet.
Yeah.
And that again is another thing we can be really gentle with and not
Mm-hmm.
judge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That makes me feel
Okay.
better.
It's okay. So that was my whole like. I don't want to be in an elevator giving a 30-minute elevator speech. I that's my thing, Andrea, which is I I want to be a conduit to people discovering themselves and extracting their own answers.
Uh-huh.
I'm not here to extol how things are to be done. Like
Yeah.
I have knowledge, I have expertise, I have an education, I have my own experiences, and I'm happy to share them, but I don't know your answers.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you for the question. That was awesome. That's just awesome. So tell us, where can we find you?
I can be reached. I'm happy to give out my email. And
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Kori@thedietdoc.com, KORI @thedietdoc.com. I'm on Instagram, and my is it called a handle still, or is that like dated language?
No, it's still a handle.
Still a handle. Okay. I am getting old, but it's the Diet Doc Life is my handle. I'm really not up on the like millennial language. I see.
I know. That was like,
I'm like, what is that? I don't.
yeah.
I
And
have
then
to go look it up. I have to go Google.
oh, you tell me about this. And nowadays we have like a TikTok. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is too much.
Yep. Nope. I've seen a couple TikTok videos and have been told that I should probably be on TikTok, and I'm like,
me too.
What can I do to stay up to keep
we're
up
gonna
with
dance.
my Instagram page? Okay.
Amazing. So sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Those are the two best ways, Andrea. I'm on Facebook, and you can search my name, Kori Propst.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna put all the information on our show notes. And thanks so much, Kori, for sharing all your knowledge, your expertise, and your experience with us. I really appreciate you a lot. And
I appreciate you too, Andrea. Thank
this
you.
is going to be amazing. I know our listeners will love this podcast. And guys, please, if you find this podcast was helpful to you, don't forget to share on your Instagram and tag Kori and I in your Insta stories, so we know that you listen to this podcast. And leave us a comment and let us know what you think. And
that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope I can see you next time here as well, Kori.
We'll do it again.
Yes, that will be awesome. Alrighty, guys. Thanks so much for listening to us, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.